So a couple of months ago, I brought a planner, and at first I intended it as like a way to plan out my week and create a to-do list to keep reminders and stuff like that, right? But when I got it, I didn't actually really use it for the first week. And what eventually motivated me to use it was I got a new job. So around this time, I just got hired as a waiter at a restaurant. And on the evening on my first day, like after my first day of working, instead of writing out my plans for the week, I kind of just recounted my experience for the day in 2 to 3 sentences, and I just recorded how much money I made from tips. And so if you could see here, like this is how kind of how it looks, where it's like you have the day, and then you have like some empty space here, and then you have like some lines. So I'd write like 2 to 3 sentences here about my day, and then sometimes I'd write like bullet points of like other stuff happened in the day. Um, But basically, I started doing this every day, and eventually it became a quick, simple habit I would do every day before I go to sleep. It was kind of like journaling at the end of the day to give yourself some closure before you go to sleep. But instead of recapping the entire day and what usually ended up being like a page of writing, because you know what I'm saying, like writing the whole day, it's just super long, takes like a page. You just feel like you have to write a lot. You just write down the one most memorable thing that happened that day. Right, so it's just 2 to 3 sentences, most memorable thing that happened that day. And so I've tried journaling at the end of the day before, and I've just never really been able to make it happen. It would always feel like too much of a commitment, and I would always feel like I had to fill a page. But I did like how journaling gave me that evening closure, where it's kind of like the last act of the day, and then you can soundly go to sleep. Keeping a reverse planner, which is what I named this, allows me to get that simple evening closure without before I go to sleep without being too much of a commitment. Because when habits get too inconvenient, we stop doing them. That's why the simplicity of the reverse planner is so great. Another thing that is nice is that it's you can look back like a couple months ago and read a memory from some random day in September or whenever, and then just be able to play back that memory in your head just because you wrote down a couple sentences about it. For example, one time I was in the gym locker room and I was flexing in the mirror, and a guy who was much older and much bigger than me was just like hyping me up. And it was kind of like a wholesome interaction, and I recorded it in my reverse planner. And if I didn't, I probably would have lost that memory to time, I guess. Like I just would have forgot about it. But the other day I was just going through my reverse planner, like old, like some day back in like October, and I saw that and I remembered like that exact moment, like I was able to replay that memory in my head. It's important to keep in mind that I also generally only write positive things in a day about the positive things. That way, that when I look back at the memories, I don't have to relive my bad days, but rather those memories can get lost in time. The only exception is when a negative memory is something so big and defining. For example, I ended up in the hospital a couple of months ago, and to not write about anything about the hospital would just be like kind of dishonest because it was such a big like pivotal moment. So yeah, like that I had to kind of include that. But when it comes to like small bits of negativity that we experience in our day-to-day life, I think it's just best to leave that stuff out. Now, what happens when you miss a day? And I know I've missed a couple of days before. Sometimes I would go even 3, 4 days without writing anything. If I were doing regular journaling, there is no way I would recap my entire day from 3 or 4 days accurately. But since it's the most significant memories of the day, it's not that difficult to just go back and fill in the blanks. The best thing about the reverse planner is that when I fall out of the habit for a couple of days, it's not that hard to just start back up again. What happens if nothing significant happens that day, though? And this is something that happens a lot, and honestly, I just write anything. Sometimes I just write down what I ate in that day. Maybe like I just cooked up like some eggs and ground beef. So then I was like, yeah, this is a really good meal. So I just write that down. Um, or like what workout I hit. Maybe like I hit a PR or something, or just a random thought that I had in the day that I thought was slightly interesting, or maybe like a nice conversation I had with someone. The point is that it just doesn't really matter what you write as long as you just write something, right? Just write one thing for every day, one memory, one moment, one instance of the day. Write down like 2 or 3 sentences, and that's it. So what's actually the point of this? The major difference between this and journaling is that journaling allows you to be introspective of your thoughts and decisions. This doesn't really have that benefit. If I'm being honest, it's honestly a useless practice other than like the closure thing of like, you're doing it at night before you go to sleep. But not everyone will feel that kind of closure. I guess like I guess I feel it, and like it's nice for me, but you might think it's kind of useless. I don't know. Uh, yeah, but it's also just nice to keep track of like one memory per day, and like I said, like being able to go back and like imagine like because this is like for 1 year, right? So it's just like next year I'll buy another one and another one. It's like every year, and it's like imagine like 10 years from now I can look back at like this, and I can just pick out like some random day, and I have a memory from every single day like from the past 10 years. I just think that's pretty cool. Yeah, but honestly, this is kind of just a habit that I came up with to just have a habit to do every day to kind of make my life feel like it has some sort of order, because I struggle with keeping habits. So being able to stick with one is kind of a big deal for me. So if you struggle with keeping habits too, maybe you can try this out, because it's not that hard to stick to. And maybe by being able to keep this habit, you might create a proof of concept that you actually are able to keep habits, and that might lead you to be able to keep more difficult habits in the future.